Hey, what's up, guys? Combat Critique here. Let's take a look at this upcoming fight between Sean Brady and Kelvin Gastelum. Let's get started. If we take a look at the records of these two guys, starting with Sean Brady. So, Sean has 16 fights in total. He has won 15 of his 16 fights and lost one. If we talk about his 15 wins, he has 3 wins via knockout, 4 via submission, and 8 via decision. Most of his wins have been via decision. If we talk about his one loss, that was a knockout loss that came in his last fight. He has never been submitted or he has never lost a decision. His record when it comes to decisions is 8-0. Now let's take a look at Kelvin Gastelum's record. So Kelvin has 26 fights and he has won 17 of his 26 fights, lost 8. If we talk about his 17 wins, he has 6 via knockout, 4 via submission, and 7 via decision. So this man has a little bit more knockout power. You can tell just by looking at his record. He has higher percentages of knockout wins. If we talk about his 8 losses, he has 2 losses via submission and 6 via decision. His record when it comes to submissions alone is not that great. He has 7 wins and 6 losses. However, he has never been knocked out as a pro. He has a solid chin and he also has a no contest on his record. Now let's talk about the physical and career stats of these two guys, starting with the height. Height is 5'10" for Sean Brady and it is just 5'9" for Kelvin Gastelum. Sean Brady will have a slight 1-inch height advantage. Weight will be even at 170 pounds for both these guys, unless Kelvin Gastelum misses weight, because this is a fight at welterweight and Kelvin Gastelum has been fighting at middleweight for a while. I don't know how the 15-pound weight cut will turn out to be. If we talk about the reach, it is 72 inches for Sean and it is 71 inches for Kelvin. So again, a slight 1-inch reach advantage goes to Sean. If we talk about the stance, it is orthodox for Sean and southpaw for Kelvin Gastelum. And if we talk about the age, both these guys are in their primes right now. They're not really old and the age difference is hardly 1 year. I don't think the age difference matters in this fight. Now let's talk about the career stats. First up, we have the strikes landed per minute. So this signifies the number of strikes that you land on your opponents per minute on average. This is 4.17 for Sean and it is 3.63 for Kelvin Gastelum. So the advantage here goes to Sean. He is landing more strikes per minute on his opponents. Next up, we have the striking accuracy, which is 53% for Sean Brady and it is 41% for Kelvin Gastelum. So again, the advantage here goes to Sean. He is more accurate with his strikes. Next up, the strikes absorbed per minute. Now, this is the opposite of strikes landed per minute and this signifies the number of strikes that you absorb from your opponents per minute. This should be as low as possible. It is 3.86 for Sean Brady and this 3.31 for Kelvin Gastelum. So the advantage here goes to Gastelum because he is getting hit lesser. Striking defense, however, is 62% for Sean Brady and 58% for Kelvin Gastelum. So here the advantage again shifts back to Sean Brady. Overall in the striking, the 4 metrics that we have seen, 3 of the 4 favor Sean Brady. So surprisingly, he is the better striker in this fight. Now let's talk about the wrestling and the grappling stats. Starting with the takedown average, it is 2.8 for Sean Brady and just 1 for Kelvin Gastelum. So a huge advantage here goes to Sean Brady. Takedown accuracy is 50% for Sean and it is just 30% for Kelvin. Again, the advantage goes to Sean. Takedown defense is 87% for Sean Brady and it is 62% for Kelvin Gastelum. Keep in mind that these stats for Kelvin Gastelum have been based on his previous UFC fights and his previous UFC fights were against bigger guys at middleweight. So these stats might not be really accurate at welterweight, but these are what we have and we'll go with this. So it's according to these stats, Sean Brady has the better takedown defense. But Kelvin Gastelum will obviously be the bigger fighter if he makes 170 pounds successfully on the day of the fight. Inside the octagon, he will be the bigger guy, so his takedown defense might improve from 62%. If we talk about the submission average, it is 0.8 for Sean Brady and it is just 0.1 for Kelvin Gastelum. So Sean Brady, we know, is the better grappler in this fight. He is the better BJJ guy. Overall, a clear advantage goes to Sean Brady. Looking at these stats, he has the height and reach advantage. He is a better striker, and in the wrestling and the grappling department, he has a clear edge. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by position for these two guys, starting with Sean. 87% of all the strikes that Sean throws are from the standing position, just 2% from the clinch, and 12%, sorry, just 12% on the ground. If we compare this with Kelvin Gastelum, 83% of all his strikes are from the standing position, 10% from the clinch, and 7% on the ground. So Kelvin Gastelum uses clinch work more in his game compared to Sean Brady, who uses ground game more compared to Kelvin Gastelum. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by target. 65% of all the strikes that Sean throws are to the head, just 6% to the body, and 29% to the leg. So he goes to the leg pretty often. If we compare this with Kelvin Gastelum, 67% of all his strikes are to the head, 17% to the body. So he goes to the body more often than Sean Brady, and 16% to the leg. Now let's talk about some of the previous fights of these two guys, starting with Sean. So Sean in his last fight lost for the first time in his career, where he lost to Bilal Muhammad in the second round via knockout punches, and in this fight Bilal was ahead in terms of the strikes landed column. Before this, Sean was undefeated and he beat Michael Chiesa in a 3-round fight via unanimous decision. This fight happened in November of 2021, so Sean has not been the most active fighter. He landed 5 takedowns over Michael Chiesa, and this is why he won the fight. Before this, Sean beat Jake Matthews. He was ahead in terms of the strikes landed column and he had a takedown. He finished the fight in the third round via submission arm triangle. Before this, he beat Christian Aguilera, and in this fight also he was ahead in terms of the strikes landed column. He had 2 takedowns as well as 2 submission attempts. He was able to finish the fight in one of those submission attempts via guillotine choke in the second round. And before that, he beat Ismail Nordiv. In this fight also he was ahead in terms of the strikes landed column and had 4 takedowns. So he uses takedowns pretty often in his game, except in his last fight against Bilal Muhammad, because Bilal is also a good wrestler. Before this, Sean beat Court McGee, and in this fight he was ahead once again in the strikes landed column and had 2 takedowns as well as 1 knockdown. So this man uses wrestling pretty often in his game. Now let's talk about Kelvin Gastelum and his previous few fights. So Kelvin in his last fight had a really close fight with Chris Curtis, where he was ahead in terms of the total strikes landed, but it was a really close fight. In the end, he won via unanimous decision in a 3-round fight. This fight happened in April of this year. So Kelvin Gastelum in recent time in 2023 has been more active than Sean Brady. If we talk about the fight before that, was the fight with Jared Cannonier, where Kelvin Gastelum lost the fight via unanimous decision in a 5-round fight. And if we talk about the strikes, Kelvin was slightly ahead in terms of the strikes landed, but Jared Cannonier had a knockdown over Kelvin Gastelum. Before this, Kelvin Gastelum also lost to Robert Whittaker, and in this fight, Whittaker clearly was ahead in terms of the strikes landed as well as the takedowns landed. He won the fight via unanimous decision. Before this, Kelvin beat Ian, and in this fight Kelvin was ahead in terms of the strikes landed as well as he had 6 takedowns over Ian. Before this, he also lost to Jack Hermanson in the very first round via submission heel hook as well as to Darren Till in a close fight where he was actually ahead, but the judges score it in favor of Darren Till via split decision. So Kelvin Gastelum, all these fights for Kelvin Gastelum has been at middleweight, and this is his fight at welterweight. He has not fought at welterweight for a while. I think the weight cut is something that a lot of people will be looking at. I think I'll go with Sean Brady as the winner. I think he is ahead in almost every aspect that we saw. He uses leg kicks more often. He is the better submission guy. He has better wrestling as well as in the striking. He is ahead. He has 1 inch height as well as reach advantage. And I think he is hungry after the loss to Bilal Muhammad. That was a pretty embarrassing loss. I think now after taking more than a year off, he is coming back with a vengeance, and Kelvin Gastelum does not really have that hunger. Even though he is moving down, I think he will have problems cutting weight. He is not the most lean guy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.